It's a common and uncomfortable phenomenon. Someone with multiple degrees, years of study, and a prestigious academic title confidently promotes pseudoscience, denies well-established facts, or reduces complex issues to naive oversimplifications. We've seen it in debates, on social media, in policy discussions, even at family dinners. How can someone be highly educated and yet seem profoundly unwise? This article explores the statistical, cognitive, and educational roots of this paradox. We'll examine IQ distribution, levels of educational attainment, the dangers of hyperspecialization, and the alarming absence of critical thinking, even among the most formally educated. We'll end with a call for epistemic humility, the intellectual virtue of knowing not just what you know, but what you don't. Intelligence, as measured by IQ, follows a normal distribution across the population, with a mean of 100 and a standard deviation of 15. 68% of people have an IQ between 85 and 115, average range. 95% fall between 70 and 130. Only 2.1% exceed 130, commonly considered gifted. A mere 0.1% score above 145, genius level. This means the majority of university graduates, even those with advanced degrees, are within the average range of cognitive ability. A college degree does not require high IQ. It requires persistence, compliance, and academic competence. Education correlates with discipline, not necessarily with raw intelligence. Being well educated does not mean you're smarter. It often just means you've been trained to master specific systems of knowledge. Global data, UNESCO, OECD, shows approximate distribution of adult education, age 25 plus. No formal education or incomplete primary, 15% primary completed, 25% secondary completed, 35% tertiary, bachelor's or technical, 20% postgraduate, master's, PhD, 5%. So, only 1 in 20 adults holds a postgraduate degree. Yet, advanced education does not guarantee rational thinking. University systems reward memorization, specialization, and credentialing, not independent reasoning, intellectual humility, or interdisciplinary insight. A PhD says little about a person's ability to assess evidence, detect bias, or think outside their disciplinary silo. Experts today are trained in increasingly narrow domains. As a result, a biologist may know nothing about logic or statistical inference. A physicist might dismiss philosophy as useless. A law professor could confidently argue against climate science with no grasp of thermodynamics. Estimated distribution of expertise, OECD 2023. Exact and natural sciences, 28%. Engineering and technology, 22%. Social sciences and law, 18%. Health and medicine, 15%. Humanities and arts, 12%. Education, 5%. This vertical training creates functional illiteracy in logic, epistemology, and scientific reasoning outside one's field. We produce specialists who are brilliant in microdomains but clueless in macro reality. Critical thinking is not a core requirement in most academic curricula, except in philosophy, logic, or research methodology. As a result, many graduates confuse opinions with arguments, cannot identify logical fallacies, overvalue authority over evidence, fail to recognize cognitive biases like confirmation bias or the Dunning-Kruger effect. Institutions reward academic output, not intellectual self-awareness. The more credentials one accumulates, the more likely they are to mistake expertise in one area for universal competence. This is where the Dunning-Kruger effect hits hardest. People with low ability in a domain overestimate their competence, while experts are more likely to see their own limitations. A quantum physicist may admit they don't understand Hegel, but a political scientist with no scientific training may confidently lecture on virology or AI. Why? Because education rarely teaches the boundaries of one's understanding. True intelligence isn't knowing more facts, it's knowing when to say, I don't know, a statement used as evidence in an argument to support a conclusion. The proposition derived from premises in a logical argument, a form of deductive reasoning, all A are B, C is A, therefore C is B. A structured set of statements, premises, intended to support a conclusion. Valid if logically sound, strong if backed by evidence. A flaw in reasoning that renders an argument invalid, e.g., ad hominem, false dilemma. A mental shortcut for decision making can be useful but leads to systematic errors, e.g., availability heuristic. the philosophical study of the nature, limits, and validity of knowledge. Systematic patterns of deviation from rationality and judgment, e.g., confirmation bias. The ability to read and write, but inability to apply reasoning or scientific thinking to real-world problems. Types of information and knowledge, a technical breakdown. Concept and technical definition. Information, data endowed with meaning and context, not necessarily true or justified. Declarative knowledge, knowing that something is true, for example, water is H2O. Procedural knowledge, knowing how to do something, for example, riding a bike. Conditional knowledge, knowing when and why to apply knowledge, often missing in education. Meta-knowledge, knowledge about knowledge, what you know, what you don't, and how to evaluate it. Belief, a mental acceptance of a proposition as true without requiring evidence. Opinion, a personal judgment not necessarily grounded in facts or reasoning. Epistemic humility, the awareness of one's cognitive limits, a sign of mature, rational thinking. A call to intellectual responsibility. The issue isn't education, and it's epistemic arrogance, the habit of speaking with authority on topics one doesn't understand. A PhD doesn't immunize you from bias, poor logic, or misinformation. In fact, overconfidence grows with credentials when critical thinking is absent. Real intelligence is not measured by titles, but by the ability to question, learn, admit error, and recognize the boundaries of your expertise. So here's the challenge. Before you speak, ask, do I have evidence? Do I understand the core concepts? Am I confusing my opinion with a valid argument? Am I operating outside my domain of competence? Speaking without understanding isn't free speech, it's intellectual noise. In an age of information overload, informed silence is more valuable than uninformed opinion. The stupidity of educated people isn't a contradiction, it's a warning. Formal education builds expertise, but not wisdom. It trains specialists, not thinkers. Without critical reasoning, humility, and interdisciplinary curiosity, credentials become shields for dogma. True knowledge begins not with certainty but with doubt, not with answers but with questions. As Socrates said, I know that I know nothing. And in today's world, that might be the most educated statement of all. Do you know what you know? And more importantly, do you know what you don't know? That's the first step toward genuine intelligence.